There we go. So we are recording and we'll post this on a YouTube channel and make that link available to all of y'all if you want to go back and look at it, or for any of the Timpany Center participants who've missed it today. So yes, we're super excited to have this program. I'm going to turn it over to two who will be leading us today in our discussion.
Thanks, Professor Kubota, for a very thorough introduction. So hi, everybody. If you haven't seen me in a previous lesson, I'm two. I just graduated from San Jose State University with a nutrition major. And I'm excited to lead the lesson today. But first, I would like to thanks again to Dr. Jen, Professor Kubota, Sabine, and Angelica, alongside with me for making this lesson happen. And I would like to share my screen. Okay. All right, today I would like to talk about farmers market and why they will benefit you. So after today's lesson, I hope you will be very excited to check out one of your local farmers market. So let's get started. Okay, so first I would like to define what is farmer market for those who haven't been to one. So a farmer market is a public and recurring assemblies of farmers or their representatives selling the food that they produce directly to consumers. Farmers markets facilitate personal connection and bonds of mutual benefits between farmers, shoppers, and communities. So why should we choose to shop at farmer market when they are available? So in this picture, there are 4 points that explain why. So first, farmer market stimulate local economies. So according to this chart, selling locally can create 13 full-time jobs per million in revenue earned, while those are not selling locally only create 3 full-time jobs. Second, farmer market preserve farmland and rural livelihoods. And the third point is farmer market increase access to fresh food. We cannot deny that. So I mentioned earlier, farmer market are where farmers sell their products directly to you. It means that they just harvest the fruits and vegetables and they are being sold freshly to you. So farmer market really emphasize fresh food consumption. And the last point is to support healthy community, and not only your physical body benefit from fresh fruits and vegetables, going to a farmer market are proof to increase your social life. So in this chart, it's saying that people who go to local farmer market are more like 3 times more likely to social with other people than when you just go to a big grocery store and you don't really want to interrupt other people shopping. And before we dive more into what happens at a farmer market, let's see how they operate. So farmer market would operate different days throughout the week. Why is it? It is because they do different days, so vendors can attend like multiple market throughout multiple locations. So that's the reason. Many people questions, and I did question myself when I first know about farmer market, that are they regulate or these farmers just go and pick a spot? But the answer is yes, farmers market are regulated. And in the Bay Area, there's a nonprofit organization called Pacific Coast Farmers Market Association. They manage certified farmers market throughout the Bay Area. So this ensure that whatever product you buy is regulated, and also the business are regulated. So what do Pacific Coast Farmer Market co-sort, the nonprofit organization, what do they do? So they make sure that all of their participate farmer markets accept EBT, which stands for um, electronic benefit transfer. If you use SNAP or CalFresh, you definitely know what is EBT is. They can transfer into vouchers, so you can use them to purchase products. Also, this nonprofit organization, they make sure that they confirm that all vendors have permits to sell their products. They are up-to-date registration and license to sell, and they ensure that vendors are stationed where they're supposed to be. So, and if you want to learn more about any farmer market that you go, there are always information booths that you can go, especially if you use EBT. If you want to turn your EBT into vouchers, you want to find the informational booth. And also sometime or most of the time, farmer market managers will be available at the informational booth to answer any of your questions. So now that I have talked about what is farmer market, how they are operated, and why should we choose farmer market, I would pause a little bit. And does anyone have any questions so far before I move on? Okay, seems like these are just general information that you might have known. So let me just move on to my next slide. So as we mentioned in the second slide, one of the benefit of farmer markets is to provide you with fresh fruits and vegetables. Why? Because they come directly from farmers who grow them and sell directly to you after harvest. So now I want to talk about the benefit of fruits and vegetables. I know you hear this throughout and repeatedly throughout your lifetime, but I still want to talk about this again because this is so important. So fruits and vegetables are a source of many essential nutrients that our body cannot produce on its own. So we need it, and where? We need it from fruits and vegetables. And what are those essential nutrients? They are vitamins, minerals, fiber. Fiber help you with digestion, with your gut health, and many study. I cannot really say the amount of study that I have done on the benefit of fruits and vegetables, but most of them conclude that increased consumption of fruits and vegetables most of the time associated with decreased risk of many chronic diseases. So how you know what is enough fruits and vegetables in a day? So according to the dietary guidelines for American and the CDC, first, they encourage us to consume a variety of different fruits and vegetables. So it's not like if you like tomato, you only eat tomato or you only eat cucumber. With fruits and vegetables, you want to eat like a rainbow of color of fruits and vegetables. What does that mean? The more color of fruits and vegetables, the more variety you eat, the more vitamins you get from different fruits and vegetables. Because not only in one tomato, they have all the vitamins, or not only in a cucumber, they have all the vitamins. Maybe an orange have vitamin C, but cucumber does not. And cucumber might have some other vitamins that orange does not. That's why we need to eat a variety of fruits and vegetables. And so how much is enough? So if you just get started, the recommend daily portion for fruits and vegetables, according to the CDC, is we should consume at least 1.5 to 2 cups of fruits and 2 to 3 cups of vegetable per day. So in this very colorful picture right here, it's a very visual example of the portion of fruits and vegetables that you can eat a day. So each picture is literally a daily dose of fruits and vegetables. So you can see there's a variety of color. And this does not look like a lot. So if you haven't been meeting the daily recommendation of fruits and vegetables, starting with these idea, putting them into cups or put them in like a nice presentation will help you eat more fruits and vegetables. All right. So now that we have talked about the benefit of fruit and vegetables, I would like to talk about how farmer market help you increase the intake of fruits and vegetables. So first, local market always provide a variety of local fruits and vegetables. In this way, you can learn that, oh, in my area, they are growing these kind of fruits and vegetable, and you can learn about new kind of fruits and vegetable and explore your new favorites. Second, the nutrients in fruits and vegetable at the farmer market after harvesting are at peak. So right after it get harvested, they are at their most fresh condition, and that is like the best time to consume them. Third, you can enjoy seasonal goods with affordable price. So let's say if peaches or zucchini are in season, they definitely cost less than when they are not in season. And farmer market, since they will sell product that they just harvest, it have to be seasonal. And then by buying fruits and vegetables at the farmer market, they don't usually package them because they are just harvest and fresh. So it can decrease packaging costs and transportation time. And then one of the things I really like at the farmer market is that I can ask farmers questions. How you grow this? How long does it take to grow zucchini? Why you enjoy growing fruits and vegetables? So chatting with the farmers can help you understand and learn more about fruits and vegetables. And in that way, you are more excited to consume them. All right, so now that I have talked about benefit of fruits and vegetables and how farmer market can increase the consumption of fruits and vegetables, does anyone have any questions before I move on to a different topic? It's okay, it's our first lesson in a while, so people might be a little shy, but if you have any question in your head, if you're not willing to say it out loud, you can type in the chat box. So maybe Sabine can help me monitor the chat box. So don't be shy to ask questions, especially if it's something good for your health that you want to know about. Okay. All right. I will move on to a pretty much different topic, which is what programs benefit that offer at farmer markets. And I would like to talk about SNAP. So SNAP is a programs that's short for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Programs. And these programs benefits are to improve food security among communities. SNAP offer benefits that enable families to purchase healthier diets. And why I will mention that in the next slide. SNAP is associated with improved current and long-term health is because they mostly provide benefit that you can only purchase healthy foods. SNAP is also linked with reduced healthcare costs. So since the programs support you in purchase healthier diets, it means that it will reduce health complication due to not having enough nutrients in your meals. And SNAP is one of the very common programs that farmer market actually support. So if you have SNAP, you are most likely to be eligible to shop at farmer market. Other common benefits accepted by farmer markets are WHISK, so is short for women, infant, and children, or FMNP, which is senior farmer market nutrition programs. So if you are in these programs, it's the good news that you are eligible for most of farmer market. All right. So what you can get with SNAP at farmer market, there are varieties of healthy fruits and vegetables, mostly whole foods, that you can buy at farmer market. So it's fruits and vegetables, meat, poultry, fish, dairy products, bread, cereals, other foods such as snacks, foods, non-alcoholic beverages, seeds and plants which produce food for a household to eat. So in the picture right here is like a very good example of what items that you can usually get with SNAP. Right? So before you go to the farmer market, I have been to a lot of farmer market, and I have been to farmer market that I did not check the time, location, or date. I show up and there's nothing there. So after a lot of attempts to go to farmer market and not checking or prepare, I come down to this checklist that you should check before you go. So the first thing you want to check about farmer market is the location. So determine what area you want to go to. Do you want to explore a new location, or you want to find some local farmer market? Make sure you know where you want to go to a farmer market. Second is the date. Like I mentioned in the first slide, not all farmer market operate every day. They operate in different dates and different times. So you want to make sure that you plan ahead and find out what date the farmer market at the location you want to go to, and what time you're open and what time you're closed, so that you can make sure you have a successful shopping. And the third is just the time and hours. I mentioned that before. Make sure you go there in the operation time. And then lastly is to check what programs they are covered. So if you have SNAP, WIC, or senior FMNP, you want to check if you are eligible at that farmer market. So I found a very helpful website that help you to nail down this checklist easier. So let me just direct you to the website really quick. So I found this website. You can have access to this website from the slide as well, or I can send out the link. But this website operates very easy. So all you need to do is to click right here and then type in the city you live in. So let's say San Jose. Click enter. And on the left side, there will be a list of farmer market that are available in your area. And what I like about this website, they tell you first the location. So San Jose. Second, the date. So it's Friday. The third point on the checklist is time and hours. So they tell you that this farmer market in downtown San Jose will operate from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So make sure to go during the time they operate. Me personally, I go a little bit early so I can get more selection of fruits and vegetables because that's when they bring out the most. And the more later you go, you might miss out on more fruits and vegetables because other people have bought it. That's just one of my personal experience. And then
I actually do the opposite too.
really, can you
Sometimes I
share
go at
about
the
that?
end. Yeah, because at the end, sometimes farmers, they'd rather not take the produce home.
Yeah.
So oftentimes they'll throw in extra
Right.
or maybe give you a little better deal even. So
I
sometimes
did
I do.
not think about that because for me, I actually the reason I go early because I want to pick the good looking ones. But this bring up a very good point about why Professor Kubota would go at the end because this I want to bring up this point. So not all fruits and vegetables look nice, but if they are not look nice or if they look a little ugly, a little off, it doesn't mean that they're not going to taste good. It doesn't mean that they don't have the same nutrients. And actually, a lot of people, they advocate for buying ugly looking fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Because we don't want them to go to waste. So that's a very good point. If you go to farmer market at the end, maybe you can even get discount because farmers, there's like, I don't want to bring all of these corns back. You can just get it for a discount price. So that's a good tip. I'll take that down. Also, last thing about this website I like very much is that they tell you what they accept. So what programs they accept. So let's say this one, the San Jose Farmer Market. They say they will accept CalFresh, WIC senior, WIC fruits and vegetable checks. These programs, some I don't really know about it, but it's very good that they say it. So if you do have it, then you are sure that if you go there, you can buy with your voucher.
Can I say one more thing there? I want to add in something. Some of these farmers markets, like the Troy Apartments, for example, that's run by Fresh Approach, which is another nonprofit in the area that provides mobile farmer markets. They also match. So if you have SNAP benefits, they'll match it, meaning that if you get it may be $10 or $20 that they match, but that means that they match it dollar for dollar. So if it's a $10 match, you can spend $20. And if it's a $20 match, you can spend $40. So it's essentially a 50% discount on your fruits and vegetables, which is great. So be sure and ask for those if they have a matching program, because many of them do.
Oh, that's very nice of them. 10 for 20. That's a lot of benefit. All right. I shall go back to my slide. All right, let's move on
You're going to join us?
Huh?
Are you going to join us?
No.
All right, so since I mentioned fruits and vegetables from farmer markets are at their peak, up ripe and just out of harvesting. What happened if you cannot consume it right away? What happened if you have so much of broccoli or you have extra cherries that you cannot really consume within that day? No worries. We have tips that help you to store these vegetables up to months. So first, I would like to say that most fruits and vegetables can be frozen, most of them. Most food can be frozen. Frozen fruits, especially good for smoothies. My personal experience, I freeze a lot of extra fruits and vegetables I bought and put them into smoothies, and they are very convenient and good. Even berries or stone fruits, you can freeze them. If you freeze them properly, they last for months, and then you can, after that, you can turn them into jams as well. Most vegetables can also be frozen, but there is one tip about vegetables that is very helpful, which is blanching before you freeze vegetables. So why blanch vegetable before you freeze it? It's because blanching is kind of a must for vegetables before frozen. It slow or stop the enzymes, the enzyme action, what can cause loss of flavor, color, and texture of the vegetables, because vegetables are more vulnerable to losing moisture than fruits. So that's why we want to blanch it. And I just talked about tip number 1. So now I want to jump into tip number 2. Sheet pans are your best friends in freezing vegetables. So aside from leafy greens vegetable, which you want to blanch, what if you want to freeze other vegetables like bell peppers in a picture, pieces of bell peppers? So if you put all of these into one bag, and so some vegetables tend to expand in liquids like water. If you put all of these pieces of bell peppers into one bag and put it in the freezer, you might end up with a lumps or a mass of bell peppers that is kind of hard to defrost. So you don't want a bad looking mass of vegetables that you don't really know what it is. So that's why sheet pans comes into handy. So in a picture, you have a sheet pan and you lay pieces of cut vegetables on it. You freeze the whole pan. So now you have individual pieces of vegetables. And after these individuals of vegetables freeze, you can put them in a bag. In that way, they are still separate pieces of frozen vegetable that you can easily pick out, portion out when you consume. So that is one more method.
I was going to say that that's exactly what produce companies do. When we buy frozen veggies at the market and you buy a bag of frozen vegetables, they are IQF, individually quick frozen. So they freeze them like that so that once they go into the bag that they stay separate. So you can do the same thing at home, as to point it out very, very nicely there.
Thanks, Jamie. So tips number 3, use clean freezer safe containers and bags. And this is pretty straightforward. You want to use clean bags of frozen fruits and vegetables, because once it's frozen, you cannot really see any contaminate, and it's very easy to forget about contamination, and it can lead to food poisoning or food spoilage. Tip number 4, label frozen produce. I repeat again, label your frozen produce, because let's say if you look at the Ziploc bag that said sweet peppers. Imagine there's no label. Can you guess that is sweet peppers after 3 months sitting in the freezer? It's happened a lot to me before. Before, I did not think labeling frozen foods are important. I just put my fruits and vegetables in, throw it in the freezer, and then 3 months later, I take out a bag that I don't really know what is it. And I ended up tossing it away. So this is why I want to emphasize, label your frozen fruits and vegetables, label your package with name, and with name, the portion, like the Ziploc bag is at 4 cups of corn, which is very useful because you know the portion. And also the date. Dates is also very important. So that when you look into it, you know what is it, how much is it in this bag, and what date that you whether you should toss it away or whether you can still use it. It's very useful. Tip number 5, I just mentioned it, portion frozen produce into reasonable typical portions. So if you only have 2 people in your household, maybe just freeze 2 cups of corn so that whenever you cook for both of you, then you don't need to defrost a whole bunch of corn and then ending up wasting it or have to go all over the process of freezing and packaging again. All right. Anyone have any experience of freezing your fruits and vegetables you want to share? Or did you try any of these tips before? Is blanching or sheet pan or labeling
I
sound
was just
familiar
going
to
to
you?
point out my tape. So, you can write just on the bags. Sometimes they wipe off. Tape is helpful.
Mhm.
So I keep either masking tape. This is a painter's tape and it's nice and bright and blue, and a Sharpie. And I just keep that in my drawer here in my kitchen. So I always have it ready to label. If you have it there, if you're more likely to do it, and it's a great habit to get into. And I love this visual and the fact that you put the quantity on there, and then remembering to put typical portions into your freezer so that it makes it easier when you pull it out, as Tu was saying, right? If you're not likely ever to eat 4 cups of corn in your household, then that's not the best quantity to put in the freezer. So figure out what quantities you typically use and freeze them in those quantities, and it makes your life easier down the road.
Jamie or Tu, if you defrost something like that bag of 4 cups of corn and you only use a portion of it, do you have to re-blanch to refreeze successfully, or do you need to use it all within a few days?
So my personal opinion on this is that I wouldn't refreeze it. Would it probably be safe and likely you would be okay in terms of food safety? Yes, but the quality certainly diminishes once you've thawed that and then try to refreeze it. So that's why having those typical portions is so important, is that you don't have to defrost more than you will use at a time. But it's super convenient and super economical to have those frozen veggies in your freezer so that you can grab out a portion or two and feed yourself really quickly. So safety wise, I think you could do it as long as you were, clean and sanitary, but quality wise, you probably are better off not refreezing. Yeah, and certainly not more than once. So where that might come into play is maybe you make soup. So maybe you're using frozen vegetables in your soup. And so you pull out frozen vegetables, you make a big batch of soup, and then you're going to refreeze a portion of that. That often happens. And yes, it's certainly safe to do. So you could do that. But when it comes to individual side dishes or just serving a vegetable, you're better off just thawing what you will use in that time.
Yeah, I agree with Professor Kubota. That's why it's important to just portion out our frozen fruits and vegetables so we don't need to refreeze it. Because for me, once I open like frozen bags of fruits and vegetables that I made, I treat it as leftover. That means I'm not gonna keep it or freeze it again. I'll try to consume it as soon as possible after I open it.
I would say too, following, say also that following Tu's tip from earlier, IQF. So freezing those, taking them and putting them on a sheet pan in an individual layer and putting them into the freezer so they freeze solid. Then you can put them into your bag. It's possible because they're say separate to just pull out what you need and put the bag back into the freezer right away. And then you don't have to worry about um, having those thawed vegetables in the refrigerator. But you might not know how much is left in your bag. But if you're just throwing it into smoothies or things like that, it works well.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Angelica. Do you have anything to add? Oh, you just joined? Okay. Yeah, so we're at where we talk about tips of how to process extra fruits and vegetables. So what happened after we freeze fruits and vegetables? What are the ideas that we can do with our frozen fruits and vegetables from a farmer market? So there are several things we can do, which are making smoothies. For me personally, I like to make individual bags of one portion of smoothies. So I can just pour in the blender and that's make one portion of smoothie. Another thing Professor Kubota liked to do, and she mentioned, is making vegetable soup from your frozen fruits. From your frozen vegetables. And we can also, with ripe fruits that you got from the farmer market, like I said, sometimes the fruits are at their peak because the farmers just pick them and they bring right away to the market. It can be very ripe. So if you're afraid you cannot eat that whole batch of cherries or nectarines or whatever fruits that are very ripe, you can make it into jam. And we are excited to show you in one of the video we're gonna show in the next minutes, a video made by Angelica. She is making a jam. Very good idea to how to process your ripe fruits and vegetables. But before I show you guys the video, let me just quickly conclude the lesson of what we have learned today. So we have learned about why to choose farmer markets than regular grocery store whenever farmer market are available to you. We talk about the benefits of farmer market and that they help us increase fruit and vegetables intake. We discussed about SNAP as one of the programs, the most common programs that eligible at farmer market. And don't forget the checklist of things you need to do before you go to a farmer markets. Hopefully you are repeating the checklist in your head, which I am right now. So the first part is to check the date. First part is to check the location of the farmer market. Second, check the date. Third, the time and hours of operation. And lastly, check which programs the farmer market provide you. So if you have SNAP, then is this farmer market provide SNAP? And lastly, we learn about how to reserve fruits and vegetables by freezing them and by making them in a jam. We learn about tips about freezing fruits and vegetables. And that is our lesson. And now I would like to show you our first video. All right.
Add 5 cups of cherry plums into a pot. Add 1/4 cup of water. Add 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. Add 2 cups of sugar. Mix together. Smash plums. Place sieve over bowl. Pour mixture. Press on the solids. Pour liquid back into pot. Remove pits from strainer. Add reserved fruit mash into pot. Mix together. Add peptin. Slowly bring to a boil. Stir frequently. Pour into jars. Store in refrigerator and enjoy.
Can I jump in? So I just want to let everybody know that that was Angelica who made that jam. Angelica's on the call with us now. She's one of our senior nutrition students, and that was her first experience making jam. So it was really fun for her, but it just goes to show you that it shouldn't be an intimidating process. It's actually kind of fun. I enjoy the process a lot. And there's different ways to make jam. So this was a great way to make jam using, it's called liquid pectin. And it's super easy to use. And one thing about jams is they can be stored different ways. So if you're going to store them on your shelf and you want them to be shelf stable and last for a year, you have to process them in some way. But if you just want to enjoy it for the next month, you can make your jam and put it in the refrigerator. There's also something called freezer jam. And when you make freezer jam, it's essentially, there's a special kind of pectin that you would buy. So this one is called a low sugar pectin. The same ball company makes freezer pectin. So what you do is you chop up your fruit and you mix it with sugar, and then you add in your freezer pectin, put that into jars, and that goes into the freezer. And so then you can store it in the freezer for a longer period of time. So that's a great way to make use of jam that's going to be stored for a long time. 1 second. Sorry. Having to get my kids to be quiet again. They're not used to us being back on Zoom. So freezer jam's a great one. We've written up a couple of different recipes. So we wrote up the recipe that Angelica followed. And then I've also given you my recipe that I follow for making a lower sugar jam as well. I just made 24 jars of plum jam because my plum tree has ripened. I made those last night. But over the last week, I've been making a ton of jams, and I follow a recipe, a formula that I use this lower sugar pectin for. So I love it. It's a great way to make use of all of the lovely, lovely fruit that we get, especially in the summer, and have it extend throughout the year. So jam is one thing, and don't be intimidated by it. It's actually really fun to make jam. It takes a little bit of patience, a little timing to get it there, but it's actually a really fun process. So we'll be emailing those recipes to you later. And I'm happy to talk more about jam as we move through the demo here. Any questions on jamming? Does anybody here jam?
Can I just add, Jamie, at least at the Willow Glen San Jose Farmers Market, the strawberry vendor, which is my favorite, PK Strawberries, they sort the strawberries in the ones that are firm and ready to eat right then. But then they also sort out the mushy berries that are great for jams. and for smoothies and baking, whatever you want to do with them. And they sell those by the bag at a discounted price, and they
Nice.
call them their jam berries. And so it's, you can always ask the vendors at the farmers market for overripe fruit if you're looking to make jams or other things that you don't need it to be perfect and firm. Like Tu was talking about the less than perfect looking fruits and vegetables. So
That's
A
awesome.
very
I
nice
love
tip.
it. I do that as I go to, we have a farmer's market. It's a year-round farmer's market, more of a produce market rather than a farmer's market, called Sagona's near where I live. And they have a discount rack. So I always make a beeline in there to the discount rack, and oftentimes I'll find fruit there that's perfect for making jam. And rather than be $3 or $4 a basket, it's $1 a basket. So it makes my jam making not only am I getting fruit that's perfect for jamming because it's perfectly ripe, maybe even just a touch getting too ripe, but it's great for jam, but I get it at a really discounted price. Or if you know somebody with a fruit tree or you have a fruit tree, it's a great way to preserve that fruit in a way that you can use all year.
Thanks, Jamie and Sabine, for the tips. I learned a lot today myself. Jamie, do you think do
I
you
was
want
just
to do
going
your
to
demo?
say, yeah, why don't I go ahead and do the salad demo,
Yeah.
and we can send out the link to the grilled veggie video so that we can maximize our time together. So we have this great video that Scott Belcher, he's one of our senior nutrition students. You may have met him on some of our other Timpany demos. He's a chef and training to be a dietitian as well. He loves to cook, and he put together a little video on grilling vegetables, which is a great way to use those vegetables that you get at the farmer's market as well. So we'll send out a link so you can watch that on your own after the demo. And I was going to go through a chopped salad, so show you guys some knife skills, how to cut up some of those fruits and vegetables, and how to make a nice little vinaigrette to put together a Greek-style summer salad. So we'll get started. I'm going to wash my hands really quick so that I am clean and can handle my fruits and vegetables. So for me, summer is like playtime. It's the best time of the year, not the best time of the year, but it's one of my favorite times of the year when it comes to making salads, because there's so many fresh fruits and vegetables available, whether you go to the market or you have a little garden. And one of my very favorite salads is a Greek salad. I love it because it's, for me, it's like summer produce. It's tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, onions in a lovely little vinaigrette. And if you make a true Greek salad, it doesn't include lettuce, so it's kind of hearty. So it's great because leftovers actually do okay, and you can still eat your Greek salad the next day. So I wanted to show you a few things that I have here. So I have a garden, and I try to grow things in my garden that we like to eat. So it tends to be full of tomatoes. I have a ton of tomatoes, and they're going crazy right now. I also have cucumbers. So these little baby cucumbers are from my cucumber bushes. This is a Japanese, and this is a burpless. And you can see, they don't look perfect, but they are organically grown and they're delicious. These come from a farm box that I still get. I support a couple of local farmers. So I have my farm box. And then I've got my peppers and my onions. So I've got this all ready. So let me start with the onion. So Greek salad is essentially tomatoes, peppers, sweet peppers, cucumbers, red onion usually, maybe Kalamata olives, and some feta cheese, and then a nice red wine vinaigrette. Typically, you wouldn't see lettuce. Sometimes I add in lettuce, so that's why I call it Greek-style chopped salad, because I do like to add in my lettuce. But we'll start with the onion. And in case I haven't, or you haven't seen me demo an onion before, I'll explain what I'm doing. So this is a red onion. You could also use a shallot. You can use a regular onion if you don't have a red onion. I just like the color of the red onion, particularly in salads. I've got the root end. So this is the end. Actually, this is the stem end, and this is the root end. I cut off the stem end. And then I've got a solid surface here. But I also like to cut off the root end, just to give it a shave is what I call it, because it has these little roots growing, right? And so those can get into what you're cutting. So you just shave those off with your knife. See how they get on my cutting board? So I'm gonna put all this in the compost. I could save this, not the hairs, but this part, and put it into a baggie to make stock. But my freezer's full at this point, so I'm not gonna do that today. And then I'm gonna take my onion and I'm gonna cut it in half. You can then peel those halves easily. You just peel off the outer layers. So the onion grows in layers, and you just want to peel off the papery ones until you get to the good onion. And in this case, it was really only 1 or 2 layers that I needed to take off. I'll take them both off, but I'm probably only going to use half this onion for this salad. And then for chopping an onion, I want to dice it, and I'm going to dice it relatively small so that I don't get big pieces of onion in my salad. So I'm going to take my onion. I'm holding my knife. This is a chef's knife. I'm holding my knife securely here. And I'm going to just make little cuts through the onion. And I'm going to make them about 1/4 inch apart so that I end up with 1/4 inch dice. But I'm not going to cut through the whole onion. I'm going to leave this end attached so that it makes it easier when I turn it and cut it the other way, that it stays together. So I'm just going to make those cuts now, about 1/4 inch apart. And I'm cutting almost to the edge of the onion, but not quite all the way through so that it stays together. So now I've made those cuts this direction. Then I'm going to turn my onion, but see how it holds together? It makes it much easier when I am going to cut it the other direction. Now I'm going to cut it the other direction in 1/4 inch slices. And what I end up with are little diced onions. So this is going to go into my salad, my chopped salad. I'm going to make myself a plate. This is how I like to prep salads, is I like to prep all my ingredients and then I can put them into my bowl, or I can arrange them into more of a composed salad. So there's my onions. Any questions on dicing an onion? I can do the other side. So that was dice. If I wanted to slice this onion for something else, again, I'm just going to give it a little shave, get that top off. I could just slice this onion, and you can do it just like this. This is great if I was going to add this into a stir fry, for example, to have some nice sliced onions like that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips on how to make the onions less teary to your eyes?
So yes, onions do that. Onions are full of these volatile compounds that when they get released into the air, they irritate your eyes and you'll start to cry. I'm actually feeling it here. I'm starting to feel it, but I'm not crying yet. So there's a couple of things you can do. It's just part of the onion. There's really no way to completely avoid it, but there are tips that you can kind of reduce it. So those volatile compounds, they get released when you cut into your onion. If you have a sharp knife, you're going to be cutting through the onion. If you have a dull knife, you're going to have to press harder, and you end up actually squashing the onion a little bit. And that actually releases those volatile compounds. So you end up with more of those volatile compounds in the air. So using a sharp knife can help. They say that refrigerating the onion prior to cutting it can also help. And that just reduces or slows down those volatile compounds and the enzymes that are present, right? So that can help to reduce that a little bit. They now sell onion goggles. So at Whole Foods anyway, you can buy onion goggles. I used to keep my lab goggles, like my chemistry lab goggles. I kept a pair of those in my kitchen. If I was cooking a lot and cutting a lot of onions, I'd put those on. But really, it's just part of cutting an onion. So the more that you do it and the faster that you work, the less you'll be around those volatile compounds. Make sure you use a sharp knife and maybe possibly refrigerate your onions. That can help a bit too. So those are some tips.
Thank you. I think a sharp knife is very important points, because dull knife can easily cut you more than a sharp knife.
Exactly. Actually, that's very true. So having a sharp knife is actually safer than having a dull knife, because as I said, when you have a dull knife, you have to press harder. Oftentimes you slip more and you can just cut yourself more seriously if you have a dull knife rather than a sharp knife. So sharpen your knives. That's a very good tip. Thank you too. I'm going to use my cucumbers because I want to make sure that I use them. So this is the first one, and I'm going to just cut this into kind of bite-sized pieces. So these are such small cucumbers, but you can see that's it's a true little cucumber. I'm just going to slice these kind of in 1/4-inch slices so that they're kind of bite-sized. What I like to do with my salads is to make things bite-sized so they're easier to eat and also kind of uniform just because that makes them pretty. So here's my second cucumber from my garden, and it's a cute little guy as well. I don't know why they're growing in this funny shape, but every cucumber I've gotten off of this plant has kind of had this little funny shape to it, but they're delicious actually. Super happy with the cucumbers this year. Last year I grew cucumbers and I didn't like them. I would pick them and they had a funny taste to them, and I'm not sure why. But I didn't like any of my cucumbers last year, and this year they're delicious. I'm super excited about my cucumbers this year. So I've got this nice little pile of cucumbers, but I want more. So I'm actually going to go into one that I got from my farm box. So I subscribe to a farm. It's a friend of mine who started a farm, and she does CSA, community supported agriculture. So she drops off goods. So that's another way to kind of support your local farmer, is to subscribe to a community supported agriculture box or organization, and they deliver farm fresh produce. The nice thing about that is you get fresh produce, but you can also customize them. So you can pick out just what you like as well. And so you can get a nice box of produce delivered to your door. It's my other favorite way of getting produce. So I still buy a little bit at the supermarket, but the majority of my produce, at least over the summer, comes from my CSA boxes and my garden, my own garden, which I love. And when you have a garden, if you have too many tomatoes like I do sometimes, I've been trading with the neighbors. So we got a lemon cucumber the other day, for example. They're little and round and almost yellow. My son was like, "What is that?" It's the first time he had seen a lemon cucumber, but they're delicious and they're so interesting. So we traded. Okay, peppers. I have a method for cutting peppers. This is my own method. There's other chefs that probably use the same method, and there's other ways that people do it. So a lot of chefs will just cut down the pepper and then pull out the seeds and the core. This is the way I like to do it. So I like to take my pepper, I like to cut off the bottom, and then I like to cut around the top. And then I pull that top off. You can just kind of wiggle it off. Whoop, there we go. And then you can pull that out, or sometimes it stays in. But then what I do is I just open the pepper up, and I have this nice big strip of pepper that's easy to work with, right? So I'm gonna just run my knife around and get the kind of the pith out here because it's not very tasty. And I'm gonna throw this away, but you can see that like zero waste on this pepper. We're gonna be able to use every bit of it. So I love doing peppers this way. And now I've got this nice long strip. So this is great. If I was gonna grill peppers, I would just take this like this, and I'd have 3 or 4 nice pieces of pepper to throw on my grill that are easy to manage on the grill. And I can also take these now and I can dice them. So I'm gonna dice these up so that they go in my salad. So to easily dice these, all I do is I take these strips and I cut them into like 1/4-inch strips, and then I can turn them the other way and run my knife through them the other direction, and I get nice dice that way. So this is an orange pepper. I have a yellow pepper here as well. I didn't have any more red peppers, so I'm having kind of an orange salad, an orange Greek salad. But you know, these taste very similar. So you can really use them interchangeably. The only one that's quite different is really the green pepper. So the green pepper is essentially one of these peppers that's less ripe. So it's a little more bitter. We actually call these sweet bell peppers, and they are kind of sweet. So I prefer in the Greek salad to use either a yellow, an orange, or a red bell pepper. than other than the green peppers, but you could use the green peppers if that's all you had. So I've got my peppers. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this piece up too, so we don't lose any pepper. Sometimes I just throw this into my snack plate, right? So that I'm using every last bit of it.
I have a little request.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how you position your fingers so
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
like avoid cutting the fingers when you're chopping?
Good question too. Yes, I can. So if I've got my chef's knife, this is called a chef's knife, this style of knife, right? And this is a pretty large one. So I tend to like to use a large knife. This isn't the largest. You will see chefs that maybe have a 12-inch chef's knife. So a 10 to 12-inch chef knife is pretty typical in a kitchen with a chef, but they do make smaller chef's knives. So let me just show you a couple. Here's an 8-inch and here's even a 6-inch chef knife. So use what you're comfortable with. I tend to use this little knife more for smaller jobs. And this is my all-purpose, chef knife that I use. So chef knife is a great all-purpose tool in the kitchen. And the way that you would hold it is you're gonna put it into your hand and I'm gonna hold it around the handle with these 3 fingers. So it's gonna be in the palm of my hand. The handle is gonna be in the palm of my hand with those 3 fingers wrapped around the handle. And then my thumb and my index finger kind of choked up at the edge of the handle. So I've got my thumb on one side and my index finger on the other side. So I've got really nice control over the knife when I hold it this way. If you hold the knife back like this, as some people will do, you can see that it's kind of floppy, right? You just don't have as good of control over your knife. So you want to choke up on the knife. So you want to be close to the blade. You put the knife handle into your hand, 3 fingers wrapped around the handle, your thumb on one side and your index finger on the other side. So that's how you're going to hold the chef's knife. Now, my other hand, as my students know, is what I call the claw. This is going to be the hand that guides. So let me just get a piece of vegetables so I can show you. This is going to be the hand that guides the fruit or the vegetable that's being cut. And you want it to be perpendicular to your knife. And you want your fingers and particularly your thumb curled back. So you tuck your fingers back and you tuck your thumb behind so that nothing's going to get in the way of the knife and get cut. So we call this, or I call this, the claw. And remember, you always want it to be perpendicular. It's not something that's natural. It's not a natural way to hold your hand or your knives. Naturally, you would hold your hand like this and you would be cutting like this. But you can see that my fingers are very likely to get cut that way. So it's something to work on if you're not familiar with this, to just remember to turn your hand into the claw, tuck your fingers back behind, your thumb behind your fingers, and use that to guide the fruit or vegetable that you're cutting. Okay, so perpendicular, fingers tucked behind into the claw, thumb behind, and that is just what guides your hand as you're cutting. Any questions?
Thanks for the tips. You would help a lot of us staying away from the first aid kit.
Yes, it's funny, at school, I demo at school, and we're always very careful, and we talk about knife safety and positioning, and I go around the lab and I'm like, the claw, and I have students to tell me they always hear that in the back of their head now, and I'm happy to hear that. It's super important. Usually I'm the one that gets cut in the lab as opposed to the students, and it's because I'm talking to people as I'm cutting, right? So you want to make sure that you're able to focus, enjoy yourself in the kitchen, but do pay attention to what you're doing. You certainly don't want to be looking around, watching the TV as you're cutting, right? So focus on what you're doing. All right, tomatoes. So I have a variety of tomatoes here. So some of these are from my garden. This came from my farm box, but these tomatoes are all from, actually these are from my farm box and these are from my garden. So we've got a variety of different tomatoes here. Tomatoes are funny. They can be a little tricky to cut because they can get slippery. Unless you've got a good sharp knife, it can be difficult to cut through them. So we'll see. Yeah, my knife is pretty good. So my knife is pretty sharp. I will say that this is the time to cheat if you don't have a good sharp knife, get out your serrated knife and use that for your tomatoes. It'll make your life a lot easier. So that's another tip. Use a serrated knife if you don't have a good sharp knife. Another thing is once you cut into your tomato, you know, the part that's usually hard to slice into is the skin. So once you open it up, turn it. So rather than cut through the skin again, I'm going to turn it over and cut through the flesh, and it's easier to cut through. So with tomatoes, that's what you want to try to do, is make sure that you have a nice, that it's not as slippery for you in cutting. So I've got a variety of different tomatoes here. I'm going to cut up, and this happens to be yellow and orange. So my Greek salad is going to be pretty yellow orange, although I have a variety of different vegetables in there. I'm going to cut this up. You can do regular tomatoes like this. In tomato season, this is, you know, a great way to utilize those tomatoes. But if you don't have regular tomatoes, or I tend to have a lot of cherry tomatoes in my garden, you can use cherry tomatoes in this as well. So really whatever tomatoes you have, it's going to be fine. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a couple of red tomatoes since I want to try to add in some color. And I'm going to do some cherry tomatoes and some of my regular tomatoes, and I've got a variety of different sizes here. So we're going to have a nice little assortment of tomatoes. Getting my tomatoes ready. Once the tomatoes are done, we are ready to make a salad dressing. So we're going to make a nice little vinaigrette to go on this. So these are my tomatoes, and they've got kind of a stripe to them, but they're actually fully ripe. It's just the color of this variety of tomato. Okay, so I've got a nice bunch of tomatoes sliced up here. I'll show you my plate. So here's my plate of prepped vegetables. Now we're going to clean off my board really quickly, and we'll make a quick vinaigrette. So I have a Word doc with several different dressing recipes that are going to come your way. And also this salad recipe that we're making today is going to come your way as well. So let me show you quickly the dressing for this. So with a Greek salad, typically it's going to be a red wine vinaigrette. So you're going to use red wine vinegar and olive oil, but you can also use lemon, or you can use a combination of red wine vinegar and lemon. Both of them are going to be delicious. I like to use just a little bit of mustard. So I'm going to put this into a jar, and just a little squirt of mustard. So it's about a teaspoon, half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of mustard. It's going to help to bind my vinaigrette so it'll stay together a little bit longer. And then it's going to be red wine vinegar, and I need about a quarter cup. I'm using an 8-ounce cup, so I know about a quarter cup is going to be about a quarter of this. So I don't even have to measure, right? I can just kind of guesstimate based on the size of my little jar here. So I've got that about a quarter full, and that's the red wine vinegar. And then I'm going to do this formula. It's a formula for dressing. It's 1 part of vinegar or acid to 2 parts of oil. And so I'm going to put olive oil in, and I've got 1 part of vinegar. So I'm going to add 2 parts of oil now. So again, I could measure this, but I also know just based on my ratio how to put it together. So now I've got 1 part, you can see 1 part of vinegar, 2 parts of oil. I've got my mustard in there. I'm going to do a little salt and pepper. Forgot to get my salt and pepper out. Sorry, guys. Salt and pepper. So I'm going to put, for this amount of dressing, I'm going to do about half a teaspoon of kosher salt. It may seem like a lot, but kosher salt, remember, has less sodium in it, or can have less sodium in it depending on the type of kosher salt that you use. And I'm going to use that to flavor my salad. So I'll put the salt in here. That will help it to distribute onto my fruits and vegetables. I'll dress my salad, and then I'll taste and see if I need any more salt on my salad. But I'm going to start by seasoning my vinaigrette. So that's salt and pepper. And then because I'm doing a Greek salad, I'm going to add in some oregano. And I had some oregano in my garden, so I'm just going to pull this off and chop it. So I'm going to add fresh oregano. If you don't have fresh oregano, You can use dried oregano. You would just use a little bit less of it. So when you're using the fresh herbs, you use, like I'm going to use about a teaspoon of fresh herb here. If I was going to put dried in, I'd use about, a third to a fourth of what I'm using fresh. So I do like a quarter teaspoon of the dried herb. Okay, so I'm just going to run my knife through this to get it chopped finely. I can smell it. That's the nice thing about your fresh herbs, is that they're so they're so prominent, right? The flavor is so amazing. And herb gardens are a really easy thing to do. So even if you don't have, a big plot, if you're in an apartment, you can easily grow just a little herb garden. So you've got nice fresh herbs to dress up your foods that you're making. So there's my oregano. And then all I need to do is put the lid on here and shake it. So that's why I like doing these in jars. This is a jar that I keep for jam, for salad dressing, etc. Is because you can make it right here in the jar. If I have extra, I can just label this and put this right into my fridge. So it makes it super easy. If you don't have a jar, you can keep jars from the foods that you're working with. If you don't have a jar, then you can just whisk this together in a bowl. So you can use a whisk, you can use a fork, you can just mix these ingredients together. When you have a jar, you can shake it really hard. The harder I shake this, the more stable my emulsion will be. So my dressing will stay together a little bit longer. And again, that mustard is also going to help it to stay together. So this is a pretty tangy vinaigrette. Doing 1 part acid to 2 parts oil is a pretty tangy vinaigrette, pretty tart, pretty bright. Typically, like a French vinaigrette would be about 3 parts oil to 1 part vinegar. So it would be less bright. If you find this to be too acidic, if you find it to be a little too bright for your taste, then add a little bit more oil. You can add a little touch of honey. You can add a little touch of even a little like teaspoon of sugar or whatever sweetener you have to kind of tone down that brightness. I tend to like it bright. So that's how I like it. That's my personal preference. Okay. So I have this lovely mixture of veggies. I'm going to dump this into my bowl here. And then I'm going to dress it, and then we'll taste it and see if we want to add any additional salt and pepper. And this is staying together nicely. So I've got a nice vinaigrette there. That mustard and that good shake helps it to stay together. If you don't add the mustard in, it will separate pretty quickly. So you just need to shake it just before you put it onto your salad. So I'm not going to use all of it, actually. I'm going to use like maybe 2 or 3 good spoonfuls. I like my salads lightly dressed. So I'm going to use like 2 or 3 good spoonfuls. So for me, I love just Greek salad. I would eat this with a little bit of pita bread, some hummus. You could add in olives, and I got some Kalamata olives. That would be pretty traditional. Yum. Hang on. I'm going to add just a touch more of the vinaigrette. And I'm going to add, for me, a touch more salt. We are not salt sensitive here, so in our family we tend to salt things, but again, do what works for you. Yum. Okay, so that is done. The way I could serve this is I can certainly add olives. I'm going to leave them out because not everybody in my family likes olives, so I would add them separately. My husband is vegan, so I can't necessarily add the feta cheese here, but I can add it separately later when we eat. In Greece, what they would do is they would serve you your Greek salad and likely a big piece or a block of feta maybe on the top. So that's another way to do that. We'll do that right now. Any questions? Any questions on knife safety, cutting fruits and vegetables, making salad dressings? It's a
I have a
quiet group
question.
today. Yes.
Let's say you cannot finish the salad. How long will salad last?
So this is what's nice about this salad in particular is that it's pretty hearty. So if I don't eat all this or we don't eat all of this at this meal, what I would do is I would wrap it up. I would put it into a Tupperware and put it into my refrigerator. And I would actually eat this salad for the next day or two. It's totally fine. It's not something that you would, I mean, it would be fine for 3 or 4 days in the fridge, but it would start to soften up. So my peppers would start to soften and my tomatoes would certainly start to wilt a little bit. So that's why I would probably use it for a day or two. And after that, I'd want to make a fresh one. But you could keep it just slightly longer. If you add lettuce into this, it's not going to last very long. So if you do want to have more of a lettucey type salad, what I would do is I would dress my salad greens separately. So dress them with a little bit of the vinaigrette, put them on the bottom of the salad bowl, put some of this on the top. What I think that will eat that meal, and the rest of it I would leave separate, because once you add lettuce into this, it's not going to stay as long. So that's one of the things that I would do. The salad dressing will keep for a week or two in your refrigerator. When you add in the fresh herbs, they do tend to get stronger with time. So you might want to just add herbs in when you're going to serve it. So that way you can use that salad dressing in multiple ways. But it's still fine. Just know that it will start to get a little bit stronger. Here's my feta. I got a nice little block of feta. I love the way this came packaged. This was actually from Trader Joe's. They had a variety of different fetas, and I tried this one for the first time. It's called Israeli feta. It's a sheep's milk feta. So I'm going to cut off a nice little block of this, and I'm going to put the rest back in the brine. And I'll make a salad.
It's look really good. The
Gosh,
dressing
this
get all shiny.
This is my favorite salad. Well, here's a nice, I probably got a good cup of veggies in there. I'm going to put a piece of feta on the top. I would eat that with a little pita bread and hummus, and that would be a nice little lunch for me. This could also go nicely, like it's nice to go next to a little piece of grilled salmon or grilled chicken, and then it could become more of a heavier meal if you wanted to have that for lunch or dinner. Yeah, one of my favorite things to eat, especially in the summertime when tomatoes and cucumbers and all of those are so ripe. You can find them year round, but it's especially delicious in the summer. One thing I wanted to show people in case they were interested, because we're talking about salads here. So I do have some romaine lettuce. Does anybody use a salad spinner?
Yes.
Sabine saying yes, Too saying yes. In case you haven't heard of it, I just wanted to point out salad spinner, great way to wash your lettuces. So you take your lettuce, you cut it or tear it, or if it's just, salad greens, you can just put them in. You just put them right into the bowl. Take the lid off. You put them right into the bowl. You add water so that you can swish these around, rinse them, and then you can turn it. So this will spin and it will spin off the water. So you don't get a soggy salad, which can dilute your dressing and it may not be quite as flavorful as you like. So salad spinner is a great tool for lettuces in particular. Whew. It is 2:20, so I want to be mindful of your time. We're going to send out the link to the videos, so you'll get that. We're going to send out the recipes, so everybody who joined us and everybody on our list, you'll get the recipes from today and some other recipes as well. So any questions before we sign off?
Oh, just a reminder, we have the next event. Let's see. Next event gonna be a heart healthy cooking. So it's gonna be on August 16th. So save the dates. We will talk about benefits of ingredients selected and present like a fun and quick cooking demonstration. Just like today, and it's all about heart healthy foods and vegetables for you. So save the date, August 16th. Same time, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. All right.
Alrighty. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. If there's no other questions, then we will see you at our next meeting or our next program.
Thank you for a very good demos of the Greek salad.
You're welcome too. It was fun.
And don't forget to check out Farmer Market.
Exactly. Alrighty. Thank you everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome. Thank
No, it's fine because then she didn't count the water unless she didn't count.